and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight,
Listen.
You're going to hear from the same old tired playbook. A bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us, and I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad. But it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did. With the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So, Donald Trump has no plan.
Okay, so I'm giving y'all a quick little snippet of what's going on in this debate, right? This is the Trump versus Kamala. Everyone's life depends on these movements that's going on right now. So I'm gonna do a post-live debate real quick, but I want to get y'all just to see a quick audio of what's going on. Quick audio of what's going on.
And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse, mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic...
Pause. Kamala, can you please drink some water? Please. Please. I can tell you're dying of thirst. Drink some water.
plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite to hear what I have to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors...
Trump said that's just a sound bite. They done gave her that stuff to say, which means she already got the questions.
I think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make...
I don't know if this man a comedian or not, but he's quite funny to me and entertaining.
People want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that he just, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Trump is cooking. Can somebody grab the pots and the pan? It's time to cook. Don't forget the spatula. Trump said they got a C-spine run plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on 4 foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency.
This right here, we're doing an audio. We're doing an audio live of the debate that's going on. An audio live of the debate. I'm gonna do a post one after I'm finished to give y'all the highlights. I'm gonna give you a post one after I'm finished to give you the highlights. This is a quick debate, and right now I'm telling y'all, Trump is cooking. Grab your pots and pans. It's time to cook. Don't forget the spatula.
The race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce, so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she
should you sub? What type of question is that? Of course you should sub. Smash that like button while you at it too.
She's gone to my philosophy, but
And I appreciate it if you do.
And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics and
communist.
Her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I
big
think it's
fact.
higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay.
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you often
Abortion. This is a big topic now. This is a big topic.
You said that
I like this. I appreciate you liking and subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you. Who do you want to win? I want who's best for the economy. As long as they put monies in the pockets.
you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history.
Black, white, it don't matter. I don't see colors.
It would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your...
And I vote on policy, right? And being an educated decision, right? Some people make misinformed decisions.
with abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And
This
said,
right here.
I'm going to be voting to
They about to talk about abortion, right? They always try to spin it and say Trump don't support abortion, X, Y, Z. Watch how the news media, watch what's going on.
We need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Listen.
The reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's an execution. No.
Ma'am Kamala, you just still interrupted the man. They said no interruption. You just interrupted the man. You should be disqualified. She just said that's not true. Be quiet.
The baby is born is okay. And that's not okay.
Where's the rules?
Hence the vote. But what I did is something for
Shut
52
your mouth,
years.
Kamala.
They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do exceptions. Very important. But we were able to.
What's y'all thought on abortions? What's y'all thought on abortions? I want to know. Leave y'all thoughts and y'all leave what y'all think in the comments.
Get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years.
Man, can I get a beverage?
Every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. And now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Yeah, that's called murder.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump.
This woman nervous, man.
Selected 3 members of the
Look at
United
her.
States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans it.
But yet you have Planned Parenthood in every hood. Man, y'all
No
better.
exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is...
It should be both people's decision.
But people wanted pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because they...
Both people's decision dependent. Now, if it's not rape and all of that, then of course, right? But we talking about in a someone deciding to do those type of acts.
Healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade. As President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national
There's no such thing as Project 2025.
that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people
Ma'am, stop capping. There's no such thing as Project 2025.
believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie.
It's a lie, yes. What's she talking about?
Because we've gotten what everybody wanted.
It's-
Democrats, Republicans, and
Look at her
everybody
face.
else.
Quarter.
And every legal scholar wanted it to
Body
be
language,
back
quarter.
into the states. And the states are voting. And it may take a little time. But for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. And they wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again,
Listen to him. He never said that he's banning abortion. He said that it depends on your state. That's why voting is so important. Go vote because depending on what state you're in, they make the laws and the regulations and they have to abide by. So Kamala is capping again, but let's continue.
and two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote. 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She's not going to get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So
Man,
it's just,
she's not gonna get
you know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe.
Facts.
Student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. Her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. It went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he's speaking for me. But I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it.
That's true.
But the fact is that for years they were.
That's why I'm telling y'all state vote matters. Listen to what he just said. It don't matter what we say. What does your state abide by?
Wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and in asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working one or two jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on.
Why can't they afford childcare? Because the economy is upside down. Fix the economy, childcare will be affordable. Why they keep playing these games? Come on, think about it. Think about it.
Plane sitting next to strangers.
Think about it.
To go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans In every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. Which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader.
Exactly.
When they got a very negative
Catcher. He just caught her. Catcher.
decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month? Okay, would you do that? Why didn't you ask that question? You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month,
The 9th month. Yep. That is Roe v. Wade.
Just look at the governor.
Look, he bagged her with her own prosecution. He bagged her with her own prosecution tactic. Reverse engineer, my God.
Governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do.
And that's not right.
Thank you.
We're going to turn now to
Woo! He cooked off the abortion one. He cooked off the abortion. It's over. That's over. That was the main part right there.
You were tasked by President
Most of her
Biden
voters is women. He cooked her off the abortion one. It's over.
We know that illegal border crossings
Over.
reached a record high in the Biden administration this past June.
the only leg up she had. It's over.
Asylum restrictions. We know
Put your
the
legs
number
down.
since
Keep
then
your
have
legs
dropped
closed. It's over.
significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently for President Biden?
Lack of preparation
So I'm
creates
the
poor
only person
performance.
on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill
Now she's
would
gonna
have
try to
put
move
more
the
resources
goalpost.
to
Answer the
allow us
question.
to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the
It's
people
funny.
of our country
She's
actually
talking about
need
herself. He actually solved problems. She actually run away from them. Big difference. Let's
a leader
continue.
who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run
El
on a problem instead
Cappuccino.
of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion.
That's a lie. People start leaving your rallies early.
You will not hear him talk
Stop the
about
cap.
You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your needs.
What happened when you had your little thing in Atlanta? Like Kendrick Lamar said, y'all still got the slave mentality. When y'all want some juice, y'all go back to Atlanta, round everybody up, and try to get some more energy again. Y'all did the same thing to Megan Thee Stallion. As soon as all the performance and Quavo and all of them left, everybody left in the audience. They came for the performance, and to me the performance was trash. It didn't even match. That's like going to a high-class club or a high-class place, and you still got tennis shoes on. You got the wrong people, wrong audience. You need to know your targeted audience. But let's continue.
And your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you
You don't
that I
put
will.
nobody first,
President
Kamala.
Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your
Well, I
response.
would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That
No.
would put thousands
Let
of
him
additional
respond.
agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond this to the
Yes. Fuck you talking about. Trump, you did the right thing.
to her rallies.
Y'all gotta remember, ABC is part of the machine. ABC is part of the machine. You see, they try to have him not to answer the question and sideswipe so she can act like she said something that really mattered. Man, clap back,
And
Trump.
the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there.
You play with an
And
entrepreneur.
showing them
Clap
in a
back,
different
Trump.
light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies,
Duh.
the most incredible
People leave her
rallies in
rallies.
history politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And
Wow.
what's going on here,
God.
you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these
I can't wait
millions
to
and
see these
millions
highlights.
of people to come into our country
Oh,
and look
we
at
gonna
what's
cook
happening
off
to
these
the towns
highlights.
all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk
Grab
about
your
it.
pots and pans, it's time to
A
cook.
lot of towns
Don't
want to
forget
talk
the
about it.
spatula.
They're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Yeah.
And this is what's happening
That's true.
in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's very simple.
Make
phrase.
America
Make
greater.
America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant.
Watch the news channel. Watch what
Let
they.
me just say here, this is
The people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the
say
city
the
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
Yeah.
President Harris confirmed the rest of it.
Remember, ABC is part of the machine.
Talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congressmember Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term.
That's a lie.
And when we listen
We
to
can't
this
survive
kind
when
of
you
rhetoric,
man.
when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump will give you a quick minute to respond.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people.
Right. Of course, they got things to
They
say.
did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book. People can write books, but nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody.
Right.
Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president
In history, by far. Facts.
Let me
Can't
continue.
stop that.
That was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation.
ABC, I know what side of the table you on, ABC. 1, 2, 3. I'm hip to you, ABC.
Proposal that the vice president has reacted
Y'all
to.
working with him,
President
ain't
Trump,
you?
you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say
hold on. Elon just post something.
Deport 11 million undocumented immigrants. I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
No. It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela
went down,
and crime in countries all over the world
went down,
is way down?
and crime up here is up.
Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down. All over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
Excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements.
ABC is not for why. First of all, Trump,
Didn't include
you need to be on a podcast or a channel that's not biased. ABC is biased. They're biased.
It was a fraud.
They're trying to sway people. They're biased. Listen to the question they asked him at.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond.
Thank you. He grilled you too, ABC. Cooked you.
Coming from someone who has been prosecuted
Cooked you.
for
Cooked you and
national
Kamala.
security
That's sad.
crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came
that's true.
recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them.
All of his cases, he's winning or dismissed.
Never happened in this country.
He ain't going to jail. That's what people don't understand.
Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Farney Willis to the
Fulton County, my God.
And the DA in New York. Every
Corruption.
one of those cases, and then they say, "Oh,
but yeah, he's so
a
corrupt."
criminal." They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, "Oh, that's the toughest of them all." A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out.
Yep.
It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country.
Good.
They used it to try and win an election. Cases.
President Trump, thank you.
Yep. Marketing tactics.
Weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political
You can't do that without the
enemies.
state.
Someone who
lying.
has openly expressed disdain for members of our
Due
military.
process. It's called
Understand
due process.
what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop him.
Harris. Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president,
This is the one that weaponized.
He's supposed to see ABC. See, y'all gotta pay attention to what's going on. ABC, every time the rules is one person say something and then you reply. Every time the man's supposed to reply, they trying to go on to the next question. ABC, you're a part of the machine. You're part of the problem. Get on up out of here.
Probably took a bullet.
That's why YouTubers winning. Get them up on out of here.
They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy. With a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for
Come
president,
on, we have a lot to get to.
ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for
Hey, Trump, keep
now
cooking.
your campaign
Keep cooking.
says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a
Grill
harder
both
line.
of
I
them.
know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have
Ha, ha!
I'm going to discuss at least every point that you
A
made.
deer in the headlight.
Let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020.
Cap.
I will not ban fracking.
Okay.
I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking.
What?
My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase
no
in
economical
domestic
terms
oil
for real.
production in history
She's not
because of an
financial
approach that
She
recognizes
don't know.
that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who
Stop the cap.
saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is
Not gonna
related to
happen. Okay.
having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable.
Yeah, you want to protect women, but yet you have Planned Parenthood in every hood, right? Is that protection or is that a slaughterhouse? Stop what you're doing. Ain't protecting
My
nothing.
work that is about protecting Social Security
kill
and
me with
Medicare
this.
is based on long-standing work that I
Kill
have
me
done,
with this.
protecting seniors from scams. My
How you
values
gonna? You can't even
have
stop the
not
phone
changed.
calls.
And what is important is that there is a
What are you
president
talking
who
about?
actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first
response?
of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I had. My father was.
Pay attention. Pay attention. Every time Trump needs to respond, they always trying to cut him off. But yet we supposed to follow some rules. Come on, man.
I had a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that.
They'll never cut her off.
And I built it into many,
Part of the
many
machine.
billions of dollars. Many billions.
Over for the
When
machine.
people see it,
Over.
they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years.
Facts. Big facts.
Fund the police.
What's she
She's
talking
been
about?
against that.
Big
forever.
facts.
She gave all that stuff up very
Remember
rudely,
she-
very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at
She
it.
can't
She
debate.
gave up at least
She's a
12
worse
and
debater.
probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now. Please.
Yes.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
She went out,
Be quiet, Kamala.
Minnesota.
It goes to
and
show.
wanted to
Follow the
let
rules
criminals
book.
That killed people, that burned down Minneapolis. She went out and raised money to get them out of jail.
Thank you, Trump.
She did
Thank
things
you.
that nobody would
Now
ever
shut
think
up.
of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take
It's not the most efficient.
400,
And I feel
500 acres of desert
I feel
solar.
We have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get
environment
to
that she
in our time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side.
I don't know why Trump on ABC, but I know he always go where you know the tides are very heavy. So ABC, you're trying to create a narrative, and you still trying to create a narrative, right? To have people to dislike this man. Wow, Kamala is right there. You're actually working for her. So I don't think that's fair. That's not, they should have an open type of sourcing of meaning that it's not a biased platform, right? But who's to say one don't ponder against the other? So it's kind of hard in these common days. But at the same time, notice the question that they're asking, and the stops and hold as if the manipulation that they're doing is for her to win. But her points to me isn't sticking. Leave your thoughts down below. I really want to know what you think.
Babbitt was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I asked, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
No.
Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that.
Tell his
other
ass
than
no.
they asked me to make a speech. I shut up for a speech.
You
said,
just
"I
answered
think
the
it's gonna be
question.
big." I
So
went
give
to
him a
Nancy
straight answer.
Pelosi,
No.
The mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it
Kinda
back in
trick
writing,
bag
as you
Trump.
know. I said,
not
this
gonna
is going
work.
to be a very big rally or whatever
Not
you want to
gonna
call
work.
it. And again, it wasn't done by me, it was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I mean, he just said no.
January 6th.
He just said no.
The vice president-elect.
Why is he on ABC? He just said no. They're trying to paint a narrative. He just said no.
An acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital.
That's not true.
To desecrate
That's
our
not true.
nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville.
He never got impeached. What is she talking about? That's a lie. Trump has never got impeached.
There was a mob of people carrying tiki torches.
What?
Spewing anti-Semitic hate.
Oh God, now she's gonna do the Jewish thing, the anti-Semitic
There were
part.
fine people
Get
on
out
each
of here.
side. Let's
Same rhetoric.
remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
Yes, because it's going to be an uprising of the people. People tired of y'all, Kamala.
For the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to...
I don't understand why ABC is getting caught red-handed. I'm going to do a diss track against ABC tomorrow, and all these YouTubers going to do the same thing. ABC. The rules is one person speak, the other person respond. When it's time for Trump to respond, y'all want to go to the next question. Follow your own rules that you just set.
Because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where...
Peep game.
Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of the stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times.
I don't like ABC.
Mr. President, for 3.5
nor
years,
CNN. Now I know what media outlet spread what narrative. ABC, CNN, they together. Fox 5 is a little bit different. I'm just telling y'all.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge it at all. I said that sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost...
You see, thank you, Trump, for cooking him. Thank you, Trump, for cooking him too.
All you have to do is look at it. and they should have sent it back.
No, he did not lose.
For approval.
Trying to pre-program the people to